a small village nestled between rolling green hills and the whispering pines of an ancient forest, there lived a blacksmith named Doran. His forge was his domain, a place where steel was shaped by fire and iron bent to his will. But Doran had a secret. He dreamt of becoming the strongest man in the land, capable of crafting not only weapons, but his own legendary physique. Each morning before the sun had fully broken the horizon, he'd step into his forge and train, not with weight, but with the very tools of his trade. The anvil became his stone of endurance, the hammer his barbell, the bellows his test of patience and control. And yet, like the shifting winds that cooled his forge, his motivation wavered. Some days he felt the fire in his veins, hammering metal and muscles with equal ferocity. But on others, when his body ached and his mind whispered doubts, he found excuses to rest longer, to lift a little less, to let the embers of his ambition dim. One evening, after a particularly sluggish day, an old traveller entered his shop. He was cloaked in robes as dark as the midnight sky, his eyes glinting like embers beneath his hood. He carried no sword, no gold, only a single iron chain in his hands. "You seek strength," the traveller murmured, placing the chain upon Doran's workbench. "Yet you wait for motivation, like a man waiting for the wind to fan his flames." Doran frowned. "Without motivation, how can one persist? Some days the fire burns bright, and on others it is but a flicker." The traveller nodded, placing a single iron link in Doran's palm. This chain was forged, not in one strike, but in many. Motivation is like the first spark. It starts the fire, but discipline feeds it. If you wish to become unbreakable, forge a link every day, no matter how small. And with that, the traveller vanished into the night, leaving behind only the weight of his words. Doran awoke the next morning with renewed purpose. He no longer relied on fleeting bursts of motivation, but built his rituals of discipline. Each day he lifted the hammer, pulled the bellows, and worked the steel, knowing that consistency was the true fuel of strength. Some days were easier than others. On some days, his muscles roared with power. On others, they whispered in protest. But he never missed a day. He no longer sought motivation. He simply showed up. Over time, his body transformed. His arms became like iron bars, his back a fortress of strength. The village marveled at his newfound power, but Doran understood the deep lesson. He had not simply built muscle, he'd forged an unbreakable will. And so the blacksmith became legend, not because he waited for the right moment, but because he understood that true strength is forged in the fire of consistency. And remember, motivation may light the fire, but discipline keeps it burning. Show up, no matter what. Thank you for joining me and Doran today, and until next time, goodbye and good mental health.